The wind had picked up. The wind was really, really high. And my best friend Sadie and I were sitting in this boat with the water up to our stomach. And the wind was picking up and water was rushing in from both sides, just rushing right over the bow, right over the top of the boat. And we scrambled up to the very highest point of the boat, up to the bow of the boat. And we sat there and we look at our boat, our sailboat, filled with water. Our sailboat turned into a bathtub sitting in this middle of the lake. How did we get there? Well, it all started on a beautiful day in the end of July. My best friend Sadie and I had been sailing for a few years before this, when her neighbor Gary generously gifted us a 1964 18-foot Buccaneer sailboat. Now, this is a big gift for people who are like 17, 18 years old. And so Gary, this very eccentric character, offered to show us the ropes, offered to help us learn how to use this boat. Now, Gary, he's a funny guy. He's about in his mid-60s. And although being in his mid-60s, imagine you took the character of Tigger, crazy, eccentric, bouncy, jumpy, and threw that into a guy in his mid-60s. Gary is as wild as his beard, which is just flaked with salt and pepper and stories of adventure. So Gary, my best friend Sadie, and I get out for the first time on Chatfield State Lake. It's this beautiful day in July. It's very hot out. There's not a cloud in the sky, and the sky is a brilliant blue. So we get the boat out onto the water, and Gary is literally and figuratively showing us the ropes. He's teaching us how to use this boat. We're flipping it, we're riding it back up, and we're learning tacking, jibing, all of the sailing terminology you can think of. And as time goes on, the wind picks up a little bit more, and now we're kicking, right? The boat's starting to lift a little bit, and we're sailing out further and further until the point that we find that we've drifted and drifted and drifted into the middle of the lake. And we're just surrounded with this brilliant blue, beautiful water all around us. And all you can see is the shoreline, just in the distance, all around you. And so as time had gone on, and we were learning, all of a sudden, I realized my toe was wet, when before it was dry. So I'm like, it's a little interesting. Give it a little bit more time. We're out, we're having fun, we're on the water. And then I notice, my whole foot is in a foot bath in the bottom of our sailboat. The entire just bottom of the sailboat is coated in just a little bit of water. And more time goes on, and as more time goes on, the water comes in and rises in the bottom of our sailboat. And the top of our sailboat, where we're sitting, gets lower and lower and lower in the water until the top of our sailboat is almost even with the water line. It's just one and the same, our sailboat and the water of the lake. And at this point, I'm freaking out. I mean, this is our first time out. This is a new sailboat, first time trying it out on Chatfield State Lake, and we are sinking a sailboat in Chatfield State Lake. So I am feeling a little bit more anxious. I'm starting to get nervous. I'm like, Gary, hey, what should we do? And he says, well, we got some jugs, we got some buckets, we're all good. Let's start bailing. So bail we do. We take those jugs and buckets, and we start throwing water out. And every bucket that we're throwing water out, more is rushing in. And so then we're going faster, Sadie and I. We're like, oh gosh, we gotta go. More just rushes in. And at this point, it is just beyond hope. We're like, oh no, this is really bad. And so there had been other boats that had kind of been circling around, and one of them now, seeing our predicament, that it was quite literally a bathtub, now in the middle of the lake, came over and checked up on us and said, hey, you guys doing okay? Like, do you need any help? Is this normal? Is this what your boat's supposed to look like? And we were like, no, this is not normal. We are not okay. We could really use help. And you know what Gary says? Gary says, hey, we're fine. We are all good. You guys are good. We'll figure it out. We're good. So the boat says, okay, if you guys think you're fine. And they go off and they circle around. And we look at Gary. And it's me, and it's Sadie, and it's Gary. And it's like we're in this like Mexican standoff. And we're all looking at each other. And I'm like, Gary, what are you doing? We need help. Our boat is sinking. So we flag down, luckily, we're able to flag down the same boat, and we bring them back, and we say, yes. Me and Sadie say, yes, please, we need help. Please help us. And so we give them the tow line, and we decide that while we're towing in this actively sinking sailboat, the safest place for us is up on their boat, which is not actively sinking. And so me and Sadie, we scramble up there after getting them the line to like tow in our sailboat behind their boat. And so then we say, come on, Gary, like, let's get up on, like, the safe place, the place that will keep us out of the actively sinking sailboat. And you know what Gary does? Gary says, nah, I'm good. I'll stay right here in the sailboat, filled with water. I'll just hang out. You guys just give us a tow in. Oh, wow. So we get towed in. We get to the beach. And we're on the opposite side of the lake from where the boat dock is, where we have to pull the boat out. We're on the total opposite side. So we get to the beach, and we send Gary off. We say, all right, someone's got to go get the trailer, get the car, get everything ready for us. So Gary heads off to do that. And my best friend Sadie and I, we get a little bit of water out of the boat, and then we prepare to take a 2-hour-long trek around the entirety of the lake back to the boat dock where we can get the boat out. So we're trekking along, pushing this sailboat, half swimming, half trudging through the mud, all the way along the shore of the lake. And we can't help but laugh because it's now 4 o'clock, the sun has started to sink, and it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And so as we're pushing this sailboat, we're singing one of our favorite songs. And we go, the story of our life, I'll take her home, I'll drive all night. The her we were taking home is our sailboat, Bucky. So after this 2-hour-long trek of pushing this sailboat around the lake, we finally get back to the boat dock with Bucky, and we pull Bucky out and get Bucky out in the parking lot and drain out. When we pull the drainage plug, we drain out what feels like 9 million gallons of water. And as we're draining this water, I think to myself, sometimes I or the people around me are Gary. Sometimes I'm that person that is sitting in an actively sinking sailboat and refusing help or refusing to ask for help. So I take that with me because it is okay to ask for help in our lives. It is better not to be the Gary of life, despite his amazing adventures and now him giving me this story to tell. It is much better to be the person that says, hey, I do need some help. Thank you.